This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Remember SEO? The letters stand for Search Engine Optimization. And even in these days of all the frothing over artificial intelligence, good old SEO, when done right, can boost a business much like a rocket. Lorraine Ball, an Indianapolis marketing strategist, says where a website maxes its SEO attributes, it'll snag the search engines and be displayed for people looking for answers. In this edition of Bizgnus Interviews, Lorraine Ball offers ideas on what she calls common sense SEO. Lorraine, let's set the table for our listeners and our viewers, if you would, by telling them a little bit about yourself and how you got to Indianapolis.
So I wish that I could say it was a straight line. It really wasn't. Born in New York, lived overseas for a little while, met my husband. He was a Texan. So we went to Texas. I've been a school teacher. I sold oil field supply and ended up in the heating and air conditioning business in Texas, which is a great market. Had an opportunity to come to Indianapolis and work for Carrier Corporation up here, which I did, but it was supposed to be a 3-year gig, and 30 years later, I'm still here. But about 20 years ago, I was like, you know what? I've got the big corner office, I've got the staff, I've got the budget, and I hate my life. And so I'm going to make a change, and walked away from corporate and started my own business, which evolved into a digital agency. It was traditional marketing when I started, and it became a digital agency. And I sold that 2 years ago. And so I'm now on my next adventure, doing a lot of public speaking and training, and using Indianapolis as a home base and traveling the world.
Well, Indianapolis is not a bad place to have as a home base if you can get out of town every now and again.
Absolutely. It's centrally located, so we can get to pretty much anywhere in the U.S. And if I'm going overseas, well, it's a 2 flight and I stop along the way.
Very good. Well, one of the things you learned in digital marketing is the term SEO. Would you give us the kindergarten definition of what it is and why any business person needs to be aware of it?
So SEO is search engine optimization, translation. When you build your website and you want people to find it, they're going to go primarily to Google. They may go to Bing or Yahoo, but they're going to go to one of the search platforms, and they're not looking for you. They're looking for a company that does what you do. They're looking for an answer to a question. And so in the most basic terms, SEO is making your website attractive and interesting to search engines and to people.
This is more than just saying, I like blue better than I like green. Is that correct?
Oh, it's a lot more than blue and green. As websites have become more and more complicated and search engines have become more and more sophisticated, there are a lot of rules. And sometimes I think for small business owners, those rules are absolutely overwhelming. And you hear all the buzzwords and it's enough to make your head spin. And what I learned is, yes, I do understand a lot of the science and the rules and everything underneath it. But what I learned is that there's some very simple, common sense things every business owner can do that will make their website more attractive to search engines.
You have our attention. What are they? And we'll put them up on the chalkboard.
Okay, so number one, what you have to remember, something I said a minute ago. People don't go necessarily to the internet going, oh, I want to see what Lorraine is up to. Yeah, no. What they're doing is they're like, I have a problem. I need my toilet fixed. I need my carpet cleaned. I need a lawyer. I need a specific kind of lawyer. Or even more basic, Why does my furnace smell funny? Right? I mean, these are the questions people have. And so the very first thing you need to do as you're building your website and as you're expanding is make a list of the questions your customers are likely to have and start answering them. We did this test with a company we've been working with. They were a flooring contractor. And we were sitting down one day and he says to me, you know, the question we get asked all the time. And I'm like, no, what is it? People want to know why they need to replace their subfloor. Okay. So I go to his website and I type in, why do I need to replace my subfloor? And you know what I found?
Probably the best answer ever, right?
No. That's what I should have found. But what I found was nothing. Nothing came up when I looked on his website. It had never occurred to him to answer that question. And that's really very, very common. So step number one, make a list of all the questions that you get asked regularly. Talk to your customer service people. Look in your email and find those questions that keep coming in. When you finish a sales call, stop for a minute and go, what were the questions people asked? Now you've got this great list of questions, and number one, you want to answer them, but there's a second thing that I want you to do.
And number two would be?
I want you to go to Google, and I want you to type in one of those questions. Because Google's search engine and their algorithm right now will actually, as you start to type in the question, it'll show you variations of the question. Somebody told me that this was the answers hiding in plain sight. And also, if you type in a question, you may see something like, people also ask. And there's a whole box of those questions. You're nodding because you've seen them. Write those down and then click on the box and watch it open up. And you know what? There'll be a bunch more and a bunch more. And so now you've got this whole list of questions, and you can't answer all of them this week. Don't even try. But go through that list now that you've got this bigger list, and start asking yourself, which ones are the most important? Which ones are the ones that I know people are asking and asking often? And then do the test on your website. Go to the search bar, put the question in, and see what comes up.
And if nothing comes up, what are you supposed to do about it? My gosh, we've got a business to run here.
Yes, you do. And nobody's going to find you if you don't do the next step. So you'll have plenty of time. And that is, write a blog post, create an FAQ page on your website, and ask the question and answer it. Now, if you just do a 1 or 2 sentence answer, that's nice, but it's not going to help your SEO. Because let's be honest, you ain't the only game in town. If you're a plumber, if you're a roofer, if you just write the same answer that everyone else asks, why should Google put you on page 1? Why should Google even notice you? And I'm going to say something now, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'll take that whole list of questions and I'll give it to ChatGPT or one of the other AIs and it'll answer them for me. Great. It'll answer it exactly the same for you and 100 other people. And that's why I say you can't do this overnight. You're better off taking the time to write 1 or 2 really great answers that are unique to you, only how you can answer it. So for example, when I talk about SEO, I always give examples of my experience. I don't just say, ask the question. I always do I worked with a flooring company, and here's what their problem was. We worked with a plumber in Indianapolis, and he was looking for this. Funny thing is, The plumber in Washington, D.C. had a very different problem. And so you can start with a Chat GPT answer. It's okay, but you better personalize it. You got to make it unique to you. And it has to be substantive. Because if it's not, take any question and do the search, and you'll see thousands and thousands and maybe even millions of responses.
Well, how does this differ from just making a list of keywords that sometimes you're asked for?
Well, keywords are okay, except we've moved past them. I'm old enough to remember when you did what was called a Boolean search when you went to a search engine. Furnace plus broken. Okay? When was the last time you did a search like that on the internet? First off, half of your searches are what I call voice search. I'm having a discussion with a friend of mine, and I pick up my phone and I go, how do I do this? Why does my furnace smell funny? People are doing what's called natural language searches. And so if all you're doing is a keyword, you're not really capturing that whole natural language. And instead, someone who I wrote a blog post for a furnace company. Why does my house smell funny when I turn my furnace on? Would I miss a lot of searches for a broken furnace or first of the year? Absolutely. Was I nailing search for that one phrase? Yes.
And hopefully they knew how to fix the problem too.
Well, yeah. Well, and actually, okay, so coming out of the HVAC industry, the reason your ducts smell funny the first time you turn it on, particularly with a gas furnace, is there's dust that has accumulated in the ducts, and you blow hot air over them, and it smells funny.
You've toasted the dust, so to speak.
You've toasted the dust.
Are there other lessons from this former teacher that we need to know about?
Well, so search, Google and all the search engines, but I'm going to say Google because let's face it, 80, 90, whatever % of search is still run through Google. They want you to build a website that creates a good experience for visitors. Why do they care? It's not out of the goodness of their heart. Let's get that off the table. Okay. Google is in the business of selling ads. And they know that when you do a search, 80% of the people, 90% of the people are going to click on the organic. Every now and then, somebody's going to go over to one of those ads. If the stuff that's coming up in the organic is crap, you're going to stop using their search engine. If you think back, there was a product called Ask Jeeves, ask.com, about.
What happened to Jeeves? He was a nice guy.
He was a very nice guy, but he wasn't doing a good job of screening the content. And so after a while, everything you got from Jeeves was crap. He wasn't serving.
I wondered why we dismissed the guy. Oh, well.
Yeah. If he's serving stuff that doesn't taste good, you're out of there. And Google, these are very smart people, and they looked around and they went, okay, we have to make sure that what we are delivering is good so that people keep coming back. And then sometimes they'll look at our ads. Okay, how do we make stuff good when we don't own those websites? We put out rules and we tell web developers, this is how you get points. This is how you don't. Those requirements have changed a lot over the years. There are a lot of things that no longer rank as high, but 3 things that will always improve how Google looks at you: recency, relevancy, and a limited number of related links. So recency, is there anything new on this website? They're called spiders because of the way their robots move through your website and jump from page to page. Google will search your website, and if they find something new, they're more likely to come back more often and index that new content. If they don't, they come back less often. And then they come back and there's nothing new, and then they come back less often. The best example of this is if you follow like a local newspaper, not a really small, follow somebody like the New York Times, follow the Washington Post, the Dallas Morning News. They have a lot of news. They don't push publish on all of their articles, even though they have them all because they've all been written for that day's paper. They don't push publish at the same time. It happens over a couple of hours. So that Google comes back every hour or every half hour to check because their business is breaking news. What good does it do them if they have a great breaking story and it takes Google 2 hours to surface it in search?
Very interesting. And we never thought we'd be working for the robots, but here we are. So recency. Now, if you're a business owner, oh my God, this can be exhausting because you have a business to run. This is a great trick if you have existing content. You don't have to write another 1,000-word blog post. Go back to a page on your website that has 500 or 600 words and add to it. It's called re-optimization. You're kind of going, hey, Google, we dusted this off and we moved things around. Add 100 words. Add a new picture that's relevant. Don't just put up a picture of your dog, a picture that's relevant. Add an audio file or a little video snippet or a link to something else on your website. Maybe you've written 2 articles that are related. Connect them. That's that related links. Because every time you create a link, what you're doing is saying to the spiders, you like this? Here's more. You like this? Here's more. So you can re-optimize a page and give it new life. And Google is just as happy when you do that. So recency, relevancy. Relevancy is all about answering those questions that I talked to you about. And links used to be like this overwhelming game, get 100 inbound links and 100 outbound. No, it's about high quality links. You are judged by the company that you keep. And the way you show Google who you keep in company with is through links. And so if you want to create value, number one, figure out which pages on your website have what I'm going to call high authority, because they're already getting a lot of traffic. Link from that page to a new article, and you will help bleed or share that authority. Let me ask this, and to move to later to your current part of your career. You are a public speaker. Do you speak on this, or do you speak on other topics such as how to keep the room cool?
I talk about marketing. I talk about traditional and digital marketing. I also talk about creativity and building high performance teams, because that was what when I first left corporate, that was really what I wanted to do. Interesting side note, very different than the way the world is now. At that time, I will say there were more people than jobs. And so unemployment rate was higher. It was easier to find people. And I was like, but you got to keep good people, and organizations were like, yeah, no, there's always somebody else. And so I took my vision of how to build high performance teams, and I just used it on my own agency, and it works. So I still teach that.
And one of the toughest things that executives we talk to, complain about if you can get them into the talking mood, and that is the inability they have, even of fine companies, to attract and retain top talent. What do you tell them?
So on the attracting side, I think it starts like with a job listing. If you read these job listings, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's all very stodgy. You got to write job descriptions in a way that's going to fire the imagination of the person you're trying to recruit. So don't be afraid to tell them, in this job, no 2 days are going to be the same. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to, it's going to be about you. Yes, it's going to be about the job and the challenges and getting paid. But the reality is, when you are trying to attract the workforce that has choices, it's marketing. You got to make your company and your job sound like the only place to be. And then as far as retaining, I did 2 of the longest years of my life, a company called Conseco. It was really broken, and it was a place that people did not stay. When I took over the department, our turnover rate was 120% a year.
Was that a fast food restaurant or someplace?
No, it was an insurance company, and they were turning over writers and designers and some of the most amazingly talented people I had ever met. And it took us 18 months. I stabilized the department, and no, I take it back. It took us 6 months to stabilize the department, and then for the next 18 months, I didn't have a single person leave. So what we did was really dove into just stupid things. Everybody, when I got there, had to work 9 to 5. I'm running a team of creatives. You can't legislate, okay, it's 9:01, start being creative. So the first thing I did is I said, okay, people, when do you want to be here? You got to be here for, 8 hours, whatever. I had people coming in at 7 a.m. because that worked for them. I had people who didn't show up until 10, but they were there until 7 at night. And at first, the organization was like, you can't do this. And I'm like, no. Are there times that you have projects that you need a graphic designer to stay late? Yes. And we pay them overtime. Yes. And there are times that you have to have a change made first thing in the morning. Yeah. Well, what if I can do that without paying any overtime? And my boss was like, okay. And so that was the first thing that it was such a simple, and for that organization, that flexibility was like, oh my God, you hear us. The next thing we did is we started looking at, okay, what is it you do and what is it you like to do? And recognizing I had 48 people. I had 22 writers. They did not all have the same skill set. And so instead of simply, say, making them interchangeable and treating them like cogs, we started looking at the individual skill sets and putting people who were better at long form, people who loved the short form ad kind of stuff. And again, several things happened. We had too many people in that department, but we had all those positions because they were always turning over. We had to. When I stabilized the department, I had excess people that I could now put on different teams and different projects that we had never been able to do.
Why on earth would you have left that after having rebuilt the thing from its ashes?
because as good as life was inside the walls of my department, the rest of the company was beyond wackadoodle.
Beyond that, well, I've heard that's a very way of putting some very polite way to put some spin on some really awful things.
Yeah,
We need to find out.
Brutal.
Yeah, we need to find out from you where can our listeners and watchers get more information? You must have a website, I'm willing to bet.
I have several. If you like just listening to me talk, a little bit of New York thrown in, look for More Than a Few Words wherever you listen to podcasts. I also have a website, morethanafewwords.com. And if you're looking for more specific training and you really want to dive into these topics in more detail, check out digitaltoolbox.club.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.